Are United now leading the race for Antoine Semenyo? Amorim exposes the serious entitlement issue at the club. Fresh links with another wing-back. The latest on Zirkzee and Mainoo's future at the club, plus all the latest Manchester United news and transfer updates, keeping you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with the hottest. We are actually, I believe, now in the transfer race with Antoine Semenyo. Let's go through all the latest regarding that deal. So this is Fabrizio Romano on his video yesterday on YouTube, going through the latest regarding what he knows regarding the deal. So firstly, he just says the £65 million release clause valid till the 10th of January. We know that anyway. A January move is expected to happen. So confirming that there is potentially going to be something going on with Semenyo in January. At the moment, Liverpool have not made official contact with Bournemouth or Camp to start negotiations, just a call in November. So that's really interesting because the reports over the last few days, or Liverpool are seen as maybe, or were seen as the front runners for Semenyo, but saying that apart from that call in November, they have not made any more contact with Bournemouth to start any sort of negotiations with them. But we do know from Romano said the other day that we have made contact along with City, have made contact this week with Bournemouth. And then he goes on to say Tottenham have been interested, but in the moment, after the last 2 to 3 days, in the moment, Tottenham are not advancing on Semenyo. So effectively, I think Romano there is ruling Tottenham out. So that's 1 down, potentially 2 to go. But and then he says United are in the race eventually to have Semenyo to play different positions. Ruben Amorim is a big fan of him. City are looking for a winger in 2026. Semenyo is not the only name on their shortlist. So I think from what Romano was alluding to there, is potentially at this moment in time, it feels like it's between us and City that are in the race for Semenyo, but I wouldn't rule Liverpool out just yet because they could have had this conversation. They could have just done it earlier than everyone else. But Romano is not saying that they haven't called Bournemouth to start any or Camp or Semenyo's camp to start any negotiations yet. But again, they could have done that back in November as well. But Romano didn't say that's the case. So I think from what he's saying there, potentially between us and City now in the race for Semenyo. Let me know what you think regarding that in the comments below. Now, this has come out as well from Pete Hall saying that Man United pull clear of race for Semenyo if they can sign him by January the 10th. So, Manchester United are one of 4 clubs who have formally opened talks with Antoine Semenyo over a £65 million winter window move, but they must wrap up a deal with Bournemouth by January the 10th to secure the deal. We know that anyway, and it says that we need to negotiate over the payment terms as well, which is, whether it's going to be a big lump sum up front, is it 3 installments, 5 installments, what are the conditions of the deal? So while we still we know the price, it's how we're going to pay that price as well, which does have an impact, especially from a PSR perspective, and it might have an impact on what we are able to do for the rest of the January transfer window as well. Goes on to say United, City, Tottenham, Liverpool have all spoken to Semenyo about personal terms and set out their plans for Semenyo. And then he goes on to say, it is United who are now seen as the front runners, having missed out on bringing Semenyo to Old Trafford in the summer. Their offers back then, both in terms of the transfer fee and his personal terms, dipped below what Bournemouth and the player expected. United had not planned to do any business in the January window, but maintained all along that should interest in one of their top targets increase, they are in a position to move now. So that's interesting. And that's widely been reported anyway, is that we're opportunities. That's what we're looking for. We know our priority position is midfield. We're not tipping away from that when we go for Semenyo. But if a deal becomes available for a player that we would do in the summer anyway, we're going to move on it. And that will be the same, I would hope anyway, with Anderson or Carlos Baleba or Adam Wharton. If a team gets a deal agreed with Palace for Wharton, for example, then I would like to see if United go in for him as well. But the reality is the clubs don't want to sell those players. But with the fact Semenyo has a release clause and other teams are going for him, we've had to move, which was what was, I think it was Dean Jones was saying last week that United are debating whether to go in for Semenyo or not because other teams are going to get him. And it's a case of, well, we sit back and do nothing, then we're going to lose him, or get in the race and try and get it done because it's someone that we would want to do in the summer anyway, which I don't have an issue with. I know it's not the priority, but you can't get your priority in January. Go for the next best thing, which is one of your other priorities. So I don't have an issue with us going for Semenyo personally. It says Semenyo's fine start to the season has convinced Old Trafford officials to make a big play for him in January. And then it says Liverpool are also looking at Semenyo as a potential rival or replacement for Mo Salah, but their priority appears to lie in strengthening their defence in January, with Mark Gahey top of their wish list. So that's interesting. Tottenham are also long-term admirers of Semenyo and now looking at ways to address their inconsistent forms this season. However, they are understood to be outsiders at this stage. So that's Pete Hall, sort of going along the lines of what Romano was saying, that Liverpool might now be looking at other options, which is why they maybe haven't called Bournemouth or started any talks with Semenyo, because they're looking to bring in a defender rather than an attacker. Mo Salah, I think, has given a bit of an apology for his spat as well. He was obviously at AFCON now as well, so they're being a situation where they maybe might have to sell Salah in order to get Semenyo in, and that might not happen in time because of the 10-day window in the transfer window for Semenyo to be done. So that's plausible, and saying that Tottenham are out of the race as well. So that does leave it between us and Man City going off of that. But as Pete Hall says, he says that we are maybe now the front runners for Semenyo. Give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. Now, there's been another report coming out from Graham Bailey, who, to be fair, has been pretty decent recently, but can be hit and miss. So I wouldn't get too giddy regarding this, saying that Manchester United have outlined their vision for Antoine Semenyo to Antoine Semenyo's representatives ahead of a possible January move to Old Trafford, following what has been described as positive talk. So he is suggesting that we have started to speak to his agent or whoever and sell our vision for the club of where we want him to play and so on and so forth. United have unleashed their charm offensive to the player and his camp in a strong attempt to secure the 25-year-old signature. We can reveal that during recent discussions, United told Bournemouth forward they see him operating on the left side in an attacking wing-back role opposite to Amad Diallo, who is deployed in a similar role on the right. We are told United's footballing department believe that whilst he has excelled as an attack-minded winger under Areola on the South Coast, Semenyo's athleticism could see him adapt to the role in Ruben Amorim's system. So Andy Mitten did say this before, didn't he? He did say that United would absolutely love Semenyo and they would absolutely convert him into one of the wing-back roles as well. Yeah, get involved in that. Let me know what you think. I'm still a little bit, I don't want to get too giddy with the situation, because until he's holding up a shirt or until we get the here we go or anything like that, as well as anything can happen in the transfer window, especially with them having the release clause as well, and especially with us competing with potentially Man City, well, definitely Man City, because they're in a much stronger position than us as well. But the reports the other day were saying with Guardiola's future uncertain, they've got a lot of wingers as well. They've already got players to play in that position. Would he see it actually as the right move for him to come? We know that we've had interest in him. We've spoken to him in the summer, and I think United will only going for players if we've got their buy-in as well. So does that suggest that we have his buy-in yet, or not? I don't know. But yeah, give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below. Starting to really heat up regarding, and it has to, because we've got that 10-day window at the start of January. In order to get the deal done. So we need to get things sorted now, get his buy-in, because if he says he wants to come to United like Mbeumo and Cunha and that did, then that rules everybody else out anyway. And then you've got that 10-day window to sort out the payment structure and stuff with Bournemouth, and that could be done very, very quickly, which is why I think you're hearing everything now, because it's got to be done by that deadline. It's not like they've got to the end of January to do it. They've literally got to work fast to get this deal done. So going to be an interesting couple of days and weeks ahead, I think, regarding the Semenyo deal. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below, as I am sure that you will. Now, in Graham Bailey's report, it said that there's a couple of moving parts that we need to do in order to potentially get the deal done. One of them is exits, and let's go through the exit news. So Manchester United could pave the way for a potential transfer of Antoine Semenyo by moving Joshua Zirkzee on via either a straight sale or loan deal, including an obligation to buy. Representatives from AS Roma met with United officials in London last week. So Fabrizio Romano confirmed, and I think it was Matteo that did say that there had been a meeting between Roma and United last week, and Matteo works with Romano, so that would make sense as to why Romano's confirmed it as well. So we know United have had talks with Roma about Joshua Zirkzee potentially going as well, which could help us financially if we need the money, or at least write it off from the PSR perspective as well for Zirkzee. So that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. More reports from Italy saying that Manchester United are demanding £45 million to let Joshua Zirkzee go. Roma proposed a dry loan, which United rejected, pushing instead for a permanent deal. Any move would not be sanctioned until mid-January, because we still need to be mindful of AFCON and losing too many players, and Sesko just coming back from injury and stuff. So yeah, maybe that does make sense. But anything anything permanently or obligation to buy, I think it needs to be for Joshua Zirkzee to go, so that we can write that money off from a PSR perspective and either use that to get Semenyo done or potentially get somebody else in the January transfer window as well. And then there's links with Milan as well. Milan are there, but it is seen as Roma as the sort of favourites for Joshua Zirkzee at this particular moment in time. So that's going to be interesting, because I think if we do get Semenyo, then maybe they do look to move on Joshua Zirkzee in the January transfer window. Now, another exit that could be possible in January is Ugarte. So more reports coming from Turkish news outside. I had no idea the credibility, but saying that Galatasaray have held talks with Manuel Ugarte's representatives and Man United. United have already set their asking price. No official bid has been submitted yet, but Galatasaray's interest is genuine. So there's more noise potentially regarding Galatasaray and Manuel Ugarte. We've had stories about potentially Nice on loan as well, although Ugarte is not overly keen on that. So there is a little bit more noise regarding Ugarte's potential exit in January as well, which I think if you could sell Ugarte, that would make a lot more sense to me to then bring in, like, not one of your top midfielders because they're just not available in January, but one of your squad rotation midfielders like a Conor Gallagher, for example, or a João Neves. Interestingly, on those, Jamie Jackson has said that we are monitoring Neves and Conor Gallagher as potential January sign-ins as well. So, a little bit more noise regarding those two particular players, and I would be cool with that. Like, if you got Semenyo and let's say Neves in January, and you sold Ugarte and did a loan with an obligation to buy, or permanently sold Zirkzee, I think that would be a good window to do. Obviously not ideal. You want to be going for like your Whartons and your Andersons and your Balabas, whoever it is your preference is for the midfield, but they're not available. What else are you going to do? If you knocked on my door now and said I want to buy your car, I'd tell you it's not for sale, and where does that leave you? Leaves you nowhere, doesn't it? So, and that's the same thing with the players and stuff. We can't force teams to sell players. If they're not available, they're not available. There's nothing we can do about it. But what you can do is look at the other areas, and if these are seen as targets that we would go for anyway in January, then I could see that being possible anyway. Whether it's going to happen or not, I have no idea. I'm not in charge of United's transfers, but that would be a decent window for me, I think, if you could get those deals done. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below. Sticking with incomings, Christopher Michel has confirmed that the interest in El Mala are there. So Manchester United are interested in El Mala. They have him on their radar since he was at his former club as well. So more links, and Christopher Michel's a decent source as well. So that's interesting. So I don't know whether that will be seen as, another attacker to bring in for rotation in the 10 positions, or if we don't get Semenyo, although I don't think El Mala is someone that can potentially play at wing back. I think he is more of a forward, someone to play in the front three positions if we stick with the same formation, or if we change to a 4-3-3, we are going to need wide men, and El Mala would definitely tick that box as well. So that's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on, but it doesn't feel like that's going to be potentially a January deal anyway. And then we had all the reports yesterday from the Manchester Evening News saying we'd have to buy his brother as well, although it was unsourced. So we'll pay attention to it. I'll bring you any updates if they come out as normal. Now, sticking with, obviously, we are going to get Semenyo and play him at wing back. There's another link with another wing-back that we're going to go through now. So this is coming out from Rudy Galletti, linking us with Denzel Dumfries, who, in my opinion, is starting to become a little bit of a Wesley Sneijder, where we're just constantly linked with him, but just nothing ever happens. However, Rudy Galletti is saying that Manchester United are considering a move for Inter Milan ace Denzel Dumfries, while they have received a setback in their pursuit of Bournemouth star Antoine Semenyo. United have been linked with Inter's Dutch star Dumfries before, and they have reignited such interest. It goes on to say United sources have confirmed to Galletti that Ineos are weighing up a move for the right wing back and are closely monitoring his situation. If the Red Devils are to bid for Dumfries, then it will happen next summer, as he is currently recovering from an ankle injury. Sources say that Inter would consider serious and high-value offers for the 29-year-old in the coming months, which opens up the possibility of a major transfer. And I'm going to say take that story with a pinch of salt, just purely based on the fact that we've been linked with Denzel Dumfries so many times that it's it's never happened. And Rudy Galletti is someone that's a little bit hit and miss as well. Pinch of salt material. Are we really going to go for a 29-year-old that's going to be recovering from potentially a long-term injury as well? I'm not entirely convinced by that. I'm going to say take that with a pinch of salt, and we'll wait and see if there's a little bit more credibility regarding that going forward, because again, just for those reasons, been linked with Dumfries so many times that when I hear a story linking us with him, I just automatically dismiss it unless it's going to come from a Romano or an Ornstein. I'm personally going to take that one with a massive a pinch of salt. But you can tell me what you think regarding that in the comments below. And then the final piece I just wanted to go through just quickly is the Ruben Amorim press conference yesterday. Get involved in the comments if you saw it. What did you think? I thought it was one of his best. I thought he put out so many fires. He basically, on the Mainoo situation, said, look, he played really well in the last game. And on his brother and the T-shirt shenanigans, he said, well, I'm not going to play Mainoo because his brother wore a T-shirt, and I'm not going to drop Mainoo because his brother wore a T-shirt, and that's it. And sort of, pouring cold water on that potential fire and not stoking it, because those sort of things do have a, someone's got to be an adult in the room at some point in time and just defuse the situations. And I thought Ruben Amorim handled that really well. On the Bruno Fernandes stuff, he basically said, speak to Bruno about it. The interview was planned. We knew about it. We were aware of it. And how Bruno feels is entirely up to Bruno. Go and speak to him if you've got anything regarding that, which I really liked. Again, not stoking any fires, not giving any thoughts and opinions, sidestepping it, stepping it in a sense, but not a bad thing to do, especially with all the heat that's been on United specifically this week with that interview, with the Kobbie Mainoo situation as well. I thought he diffused them really well, and then basically kind of clarified what he was talking about when it came to the young players as well. I'm not going to read all of this because it will take a while to go through, but this is, let me just resize that for you. He was asked, I don't know if you saw what Chido Iwobi and Harry Amas posted on social media in the week. What do you make of that? It seems quite petty. And he gave a really, really top response, in my opinion. He said, I think there's a little bit of entitlement that we have in our club. Sometimes strong words are not bad words. Sometimes difficult moments are not bad things for kids. We don't need to always be with accolades and everything in every situation. That's, basically saying that there was an air of entitlement at Manchester United, whether that's in the first team or within the youth team players. And sometimes criticising players is not a bad thing, which I thought was a very valid point as well. He went on to say that when you have legends at the club that say, if you don't play, leave because everyone is wrong. Let's talk about that. He said, let's stay, let's fight, let's overcome. Maybe the manager is wrong, which in response to what Scholes and Nicky Butt and Rio Ferdinand had to say regarding Kobbie Mainoo, basically saying, well, if you're not playing, leave the club. Sort of tipping along the lines of what Roy Keane was saying on the Overlap podcast, which was basically, no, just stay and fight for your place. And when you get an opportunity, take your opportunity. That's how you become a better player and a better person. But then also you prove the manager wrong and you give him a real headache. And that's what Amorim's saying. You don't always have to just run when the going gets tough. You just leave the club. What's wrong with staying and fighting for your place and having that competition, because you'll grow as a person, you'll grow as a player for doing that. And I don't necessarily have an issue with that, but that leads back to what you were saying about the entitlement, where some players have come through or young players going into the first team, make a few appearances, feel they're entitled, and it creates that sort of ego, I suppose, within the player. So I really like the fact, but this was the one thing that I wanted to go through. He said, they feel free to respond to a manager with a picture. My office is open. Nobody came to talk to me. That is the way we solve things. So I think we need to change first as a club, and then everything is going to change. So basically saying that there's been, and how many times have we seen this, not just with youth players, but with players at Man United in the past, where the going gets tough, and the first thing that they do is post something online. We had it with Jadon Sancho, I think Paul Pogba, there's been a plethora of problems that we've had at United that should have been resolved in-house, that players have taken to social media. And what he's saying is that, look, if you've got a problem, come and speak to me. My door's been open all week and not one single player has come to have a word with him. Instead, they've turned to social media by putting posts on because they've been allowed to get away with it by previous regimes and previous managers and stuff. And what Ruben Amorim is saying, no, that's not the way we're doing it anymore. And unless we fix that, then it's going to keep creating this vicious cycle. And I thought that was a really prominent point from Ruben Amorim, because he did say in that sort of statement as well, that he said, I know I'm failing on the pitch, but I promise you behind the scenes, I am not failing this club. And those sort of things need to be ironed out. And if Ruben Amorim's the man to do that, then I fully back him on doing that as well, because for far too long we have seen it where players will just turn to social media instead of just having a chat with the manager and having it out with them. And it's not like Amorim comes across as unapproachable neither. Like, how many times have you heard from podcasts and stuff from Roy Keane, Gary Neville, Wayne Rooney, Rio Ferdinand, Nemanja Vidic, Patrice Evra, like all these players, how many times have they said, I was dropped for a game, so I went and spoke to the manager about it to understand why? Like, all of them have. And that was Alex Ferguson, who, would be a lot more scarier, I think, to knock on the door with than Ruben Amorim personally. And I know the character of the players is different, so I get that as an argument against it. But they wouldn't have been, they weren't always players that were, senior leaders that have been there for years as well. You've had countless people, Berbatov, like loads of players have all said, I went to the manager and spoke to him about what was going on. And, he'd either agree, or they'd get the hairdryer, or they'd get told to F off or whatever from Fergie. But they would have the balls to do it. What Amorim's saying is, no, what they'll do, they won't come and do that, even though Amorim, I think, is a very, very approachable guy from everything you hear and you see and stuff like that as well. They'll just turn to social media and put posts on or do T-shirts or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And that needs to stop. That needs to end, because it's and in order to do that, then I back Amorim. I back Amorim's hard stance on that personally. But yeah, I thought overall really good interview, really good from Ruben Amorim all around, and that particular one I thought was really good as well. Just basically saying, look, we've got people at the club that feel that they're entitled to be here, and I'm not having it. And you've got to fight for your place. You don't turn to social media when things go wrong. Come and speak to me. We'll have it out. We'll sort it out as adults, or at least you'll maybe understand my viewpoint and go away knowing what you'll need to do to improve and stuff. But the fact players aren't, seems a little bit scary to me personally, but maybe that's just society. Maybe I'm showing my age there as well, because I am of a generation where, I don't have an issue going to speak to somebody if something's not going wrong and to understand what I need to do. So maybe it is just an age thing, and I'm showing my age there. But let me know what you think regarding that in the comments below. So overall, the Semenyo news is starting to ramp up. Some reports, I'd want to see a bit more credibility though, suggesting that we are now the front runners of that deal, with potentially Liverpool and Tottenham pulling out the race. I'm going to wait though for this until we get like an Ornstein Bomber or a Romano, here we go, regarding Semenyo, because there are a lot of big teams in the race, and we don't always win those sort of deals. But I am encouraged by the fact we are going for it, because, on the flip side of that, Ineos only go for players that do want to come for United. Ugarte, potentially some more noise around him going in January, which could open the door to bring in maybe a João Neves or a Conor Gallagher. We'll need to wait and see what happens with Mainoo and Zirkzee, but that's not exactly breaking news there. El Mala, a little bit more credibility, saying that there is interest in him, but whether that's going to be, for January or in the summer, or if we get Semenyo, that's going to be, out of the equation as well. And then Ruben Amorim's press conference. Let me know what you think about all of those in the comments below. Don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you in the next one.